Hey everyone, Crisis here. After shedding light on the Chosen One's power level, how about we put his heir under the spotlight? Now, I know everyone's ready to hear how much of a powerhouse Luke is, don't worry, that's coming up, but first, I've got to get a few things in order, so pull up a chair and let me level with you here. Luke Skywalker from the Star Wars Expanded Universe is a character who is spoken of in the same vein as Goku and Superman when it comes to power scaling. He's seen as an ultimate example of the archetypal, undefeatable god tier in his universe, a beacon of valor with the power to uphold it. Without spoiling too much of what's to come, that isn't the case. Now, don't get me wrong, Luke Skywalker is a GOAT, zero doubt, but in my mind, he is severely misunderstood and a misportrayed character when it comes to most corners of the internet. To make a long story short, and to not turn this into an analysis of Luke Skywalker's legends narrative, Luke Skywalker is far from the altruistic goody two-shoes he's been hailed as being, and he is in no way the single most powerful character in Star Wars. This is the guy who nearly gave into his rage to kill his own father and Palpatine. The guy who, after knowing full well of the tragic path laid before him by his father, willingly turned to the dark side and was all but nearly consumed by it. A man who decapitated the Dark Lady Lumaya after he was informed that she killed his wife. And then, after learning that he was deceived into killing Lumaya by his nephew Jason Solo, the true killer of Mara Jade, refused to face Darth Vader since he knew that he would not be able to stop himself from killing his own flesh and blood in an act of revenge. Luke may very well have been justified in these decisions. We may agree that the lives he would seek to take aren't worth being allowed to live. Regardless, acting out of murderous vengeance isn't becoming of the uber-generic misinterpretation of the I can do anything and never jaywalk and I will not kill archetype. The EU's Luke Skywalker is a far more conflicted and a far more interesting character than he's given credit for, in my eyes. When it comes to the almighty power of EU Luke Skywalker isn't an endearing icon of heroism because he drop-kicked Vader off of Cloud City only to then erase Sidious's soul with a flying knee to his left orbital bone. He's a hero because he saw that there was no victory in ending his enemies out of rage. That the choice of a hero is to stick to his morals and face whatever consequences may arrive. Luke often does find a way to win, he often does outduel or overpower his enemies. Just keep in mind that isn't always the case here, and he is no less of a hero or compelling character for it. Now, before I really get into it, much of this video will be contingent on the understanding of concepts conveyed in my Darth Vader video. I highly recommend watching it, as it goes over the fundamental principles of scaling for Star Wars characters, as well as features the power scaling of certain characters that Luke scales to. With all that behind us, let's begin with Luke Skywalker's attack potency. But before we get into that, I would like to mention that I have started a Patreon. Pledge between just $5, $10, or $15, and you can receive perks such as a shout out at the end of every video, early access to content such as my MCU/DCEU crossover fanfiction video series, the ability to vote on polls regarding the content of future videos, live streams of the behind the making of my videos, and more. Any amount you pledge would go towards both ensuring the quality and frequency of my content and would be a huge help to me personally. Links to the Patreon will be on screen, in the description, and on my YouTube page. Thank you so much and enjoy. Regarding Luke Skywalker's attack potency, there's actually a lot going on behind the scenes than what the films may have let on. For instance, after intensive yet brief training under Grandmaster Yoda and being honestly ragdolled by a holding back Vader in Empire Strikes Back, Vader notes that Luke Skywalker, when compared to the Jedi of old, and perhaps even Anakin Skywalker, Luke is the strongest among the Jedi. For those scoffing at this bold of a claim, it has as well been stated that Luke's potential and his latent talent is unparalleled, even when compared to Vader and Darth Sidious. So it is entirely possible that Luke Skywalker's prodigious potential could eclipse the brightest lights among the prequel-era Jedi Order, landing him in the universal ranges of power, scaling to Yoda, Sidious, Dooku tier fighters. But this is honestly very low level in terms of Luke Skywalker's power progression, as by Return of the Jedi, he's stated to be even more powerful than his Empire Strikes Back counterpart. Now, I'm sure that many of you are eagerly awaiting to hear of Luke's conquest over the Dark Lord Vader. However, within context, I'm honestly hesitant to grant Luke the outright victory here, seeing as Vader was conflicted against his son, his only remaining connection to his past, as well as his only hope for the future. Not to mention that Luke was in fact enraged against his father in the waning moments of their climactic battle, with rage being stated an innumerable amount of times to increase a Force user's power in battle. So essentially, Luke was amped and Vader was nerfed during their battle above Endor. This is reinforced by the novel The Courtship of Princess Leia, taking place 4 years after Return of the Jedi, where, after being utterly floored by a powerful member of the Night Sister clan, Luke internally recognizes his pain as being tantamount to what he would have experienced if his father had truly directed his full malevolence towards him. Thankfully, however, this wouldn't be where Luke's journey ends. 2 years after the prior mentioned events in the multimedia event known as Dark Empire, Luke Skywalker would be stated to have grown immensely in power since the events of Return of the Jedi, with this Luke doing battle with the most powerful version of Palpatine ever seen, the reborn clone of the Sith Lord, with Leia Solo sensing that, over the course of this epic fight, that the light side, when wielded by Luke, was overpowering the dark side with Insidious.
The waves of power. The dark side and the light. But I feel the light is winning.
With Luke finally besting Sidious in this saber duel. To summarize my Palpatine scaling presented in my Vader video, Force users amp their stats with the Force. Sidious can use the Force to conjure and empower Force Storms. Force Storms are hyperspace wormholes. Hyperspace is 5th dimensional. Case closed. But there is a bit of an issue here. As far as I see it, there are either two interpretations regarding Luke's state during this event. Either his Force connection to Leia amped Luke Skywalker, thus breaking the scaling chain between Dark Empire Sidious and standard non-amped Luke, or Leia simply unlocked a portion of Luke's latent potential. Think of Ultimate Gohan from Dragon Ball Z. Honestly though, it's not really an issue, as a year after the events of Dark Empire, Luke Skywalker stated that he was stronger than ever, which would logically include all of his prior rage amps and possible Leia empowerment. As shown in my Darth Vader video, characters scaling to Return of the Jedi Palpatine's power level would be in the 5th dimensional tier of attack potency. And thankfully for Luke, we have more than enough feats and statements to place Skywalker in this tier. Luke's scaling above Sidious is further backed up by his defeat over the Yuuzhan Vong's Supreme Overlord, whom Luke compares directly to Return of the Jedi Palpatine, with Luke besting Shimra while abstaining from using 3/4 of his Force powers. Keep in mind this is his actual Force abilities, as he didn't use a large chunk of his powers against Shimra, stuff like flight. Okay, so I have heard an argument, mostly regarding the canon version of Grandmaster Luke, but I feel like I should address it here regardless. It's the argument that Luke has been a Jedi, fighting, learning, and teaching for over 40 years. Certainly, with all that grinding, he must have reached the full potential of his bloodline, that being the Chosen One. Someone who could, at their peak, ragdoll the literal embodiments of the dark side and light side of the Force. However, this assumption is fallacious for a number of reasons. To delve into why, I have to first explain the scaling of the embodiment of chaos, Abeloth. Abeloth is acknowledged as one of, if not the most powerful Force entities in all of the EU. However, I'm afraid I'm gonna have to set the record straight. Abeloth's reputation is derived from an alleged feat of beating both the son and daughter, embodiments of the light side and dark side of the Force, whose existence in the mortal universe passively threatens the very fabric of the realm itself, with the only Force users known to surpass the ones being full potential Anakin and the embodiment of balance, the Father. This feat is an in-universe mural, with its description reading as follows. The third panel depicted the arcade complex again, this time with a much-changed Abeloth standing in the heart of a stormy courtyard. Her hair had grown coarse and long, her nose had flattened until it was practically gone, and her sparkling eyes had grown so sunken and dark that all that could be seen of them were the twinkles. She was raising her arms toward a cowering daughter and a glowering son, with long tentacles lashing from where her fingers should have been. Stepping forward to shield them was a furious father, one hand pointing toward the swamp at the open end of the temple, the other reaching out to intercept her tentacled fingers. So here is what we know. Abeloth, the adoptive daughter of the Ones, has undergone a horrible transformation, with her children, meaning Abeloth, with either a look of fear or disapproval. The father then shows up to defend the son and daughter from Abeloth. Now, this is all that we know about this interaction. Keep that in mind. We also know that the son and the daughter were instrumental in forcing Abeloth back into her black hole prison after her recurring escapes over the millennia, with it being blatantly stated that Abeloth could not be imprisoned without the son and daughter, meaning their actual force powers were required to beat Abeloth back into the Maw installation. Not to mention that in the StarWars.com article titled Galactic Architecture 101 and the History of Centerpoint Station, it is stated that Abeloth is relative to, but weaker than the Ones, also known as the Celestials. I think it's fair to say that a vague description of the son and daughter looking sad and afraid that their mother has literally transformed into a murderous monster doesn't necessarily mean that Abeloth is objectively more powerful than the son and daughter when faced with concrete feats and statements. With all that being said, Luke doesn't even scale to Abeloth, as it is in fact stated that the embodiment of chaos possesses 12 times the power of Grand Master Luke Skywalker. Now, you may point to Luke's 2v1 against Abeloth alongside Darth Krayt, where each combatant is able to damage Abeloth in various ways. Again, we have to look at the context. At this point, Abeloth has split her power among various avatars throughout the galaxy, with many of them being killed off at the same time that she was doing battle with the Jedi and Sith leaders. So it wouldn't be valid to say Luke scales to Prime Abeloth. Look, Luke's final battle in the EU, chronologically speaking, was against Abeloth, a being stated to be 12 times more powerful than Luke, but weaker than the son and daughter, whereas Anakin on Mortis was far above their combined powers. Therefore, Grandmaster Luke simply has nowhere near the power of full potential Anakin. Now, here's the good news. Abeloth did fear Luke Skywalker and his power to potentially put an end to her schemes, reaffirming, in my opinion, that Luke's potential and adaptation is so great that he could surpass Abeloth's power advantage in a relatively short amount of time. So, there's the silver lining. Luke Skywalker's combat and reaction speed is pretty clear-cut. He reacts to blaster bolts left and right, with blasters being stated to move at light speed in various sources. I'll have a Google document linked in the description showcasing the many times blasters are described as light speed for those who doubt this claim. Skywalker as well has dueling feats of scaling to characters such as Darth Sidious, someone who certainly scales above the power and speed of Anakin Skywalker, seeing as Dark Empire Sidious, when the character is at his most powerful, is stated to be the most powerful Sith in history, scaling above Nightfall Anakin and Darth Vader, with Luke further scaling above Anakin via the previously mentioned Shadows of the Empire statement. With this scaling Luke to and above Anakin's massively faster than light feat of halting a Republic cruiser as it exits hyperspace. This feat was calculated to be between 3,000 and 30,000 times faster than light, or massively faster than light plus to use power scaling terms. Luke Skywalker is one of the most skilled saber duelists in the history of Star Wars Legends. Due to his potential and aptitude, he was able to instantly adapt to Return of the Jedi Vader's assault, with the Sith Lord being known to use a variant of Form 5, incorporating techniques from all other saber forms, a skill indicative of the highest level of saber mastery. While Luke prefers to lean on his skills over the fifth form of saber combat, he has been stated in the Legacy of the Force era to be the greatest sword handler in the galaxy, surpassing Kyle Katarn, the new Jedi Order's Battle Master. A Battle Master being required to possess knowledge of all saber forms, with the first variant of Form 7, Juyo, requiring high-level mastery of most of the other 6 saber forms. Not to mention that Luke is able to, twice, provide the reborn Darth Sidious a fierce/vicious saber duel in Dark Empire. Sidious being stated a master of every saber form, with Sidious of course scaling to Yoda, with the Jedi Grandmaster having to use the utmost of his saber skills against Sidious, with Yoda having statements of surpassing all prior Jedi in terms of dueling prowess. These statements are of course shared by fellow prequel trilogy top tiers such as Anakin and Mace Windu, but regardless, Luke Skywalker would scale to this level of lightsaber mastery. A more underrated facet of the Jedi, and therefore Luke's skill set, is their combat abilities when compared to masters of martial arts. It has been stated that Palpatine's Royal Guard were masters of every weapon and all forms of hand-to-hand combat in the galaxy, with their skill still lesser than that of the Jedi, with Luke himself being stated to know more hand-to-hand combat forms than his humanoid combatant had fingers and toes. Seeing as we can't use the amount of martial arts from the real world as to the quantity of hand-to-hand forms in the Star Wars universe, seeing as their respective societies are so different, see my video about Solid Snake vs. Boba Fett, Luke would scale above fighters possessing mastery of over at least 21 forms of martial arts. In terms of the powers Grandmaster Luke has actually performed, he would have proficiency in Force Valor, the amplification of his strength and speed through the Force, Telekinesis, being able to move artificial black holes designed to shift moons, Astral Projection, projecting his visage to Han and Leia in Dark Empire, Illusion Creation, conjuring an evil turbolift as well as an entire fake spacecraft, Intent Sensing, picking up on Yoda's kindly nature through sight alone, Emotion Sensing, reading all of the warring emotions inside of Jacen Solo, Presence Sensing, detecting around 3 million beings across great distances, as well as the dark side Jedi Sabaoth inside hyperspace, Cloaking, rendering a 1,500 meter long spaceship visually indetectable. He has a healing factor as shown through the Reduce Injury skill in Galaxy Guide number 5 and his showings in the courtship of Princess Leia. Tuda Menace, with Luke attempting to absorb the Sith lightning fired upon him in Return of the Jedi. Force Sever, with Luke and Leia managing to separate Sidious from his great rage in Dark Empire. Flight, with Luke seemingly being able to manipulate his own mass through thought. Weakness Detection, sensing the stress point in a wall. Teleportation, being able to teleport away objects from someone's hand, as well as himself through mind walking. Further showcasing this ability through his battle with Abeloth's essence in a realm, quote, beyond shadows. Technopathy through the lightning rod technique, rendering holocams inoperable. Force Stun, pinning both Darth Kaitis and a Sith acolyte in place. Gravity Manip, using the Force to stick himself onto a Stealth X craft. Force Judgment, a weaker variant of Force Lightning, known to stun opponents, with Luke using this ability to one-shot a Vong possessing saber-resistant skin. Stamina Restoration, being able to cure himself of exhaustion through the Force. Shatterpoint, with Luke teaching the weakness detecting technique in the Legacy of the Force era. With Time Walking, he can passively witness events in the past, with Kaitis using this ability to witness events happening nearly 60 years prior, and as well, seeing events yet to come, with a limited ability to alter this portent of the future. Skywalker has as well shown resistance to mental manipulation, as he undid the mental programming caused by one Dev Sibwara, with Luke and Leia training their mental defenses against one another later in life. And he has a resistance to Force Stun, as shown in Galaxy Guide number 5. In terms of Force knowledge and his potential abilities, much the same can be said for Luke Skywalker as could be said for Darth Vader. For those who haven't seen my video on Vader, let me explain. It was stated in Dark Empire number 6 that Luke Skywalker knows all the dark knowledge that his father possessed, with Palpatine groaning that he had taught the son of Skywalker in the ways of the dark side all too well. At face value, this would give Luke a relative amount of knowledge as Vader, with the Dark Lord having access to multiple Sith holocrons, with one holocron being designed to store near infinite knowledge. In Dark Empire number 1, it was stated that Luke was adept with all the fundamental abilities of a Jedi Knight. Skywalker as well came into possession of the Jedi Path, an in-universe Jedi training manual, this text having been instrumental in the training of Jedi legends such as Yoda, Obi-Wan Kenobi, and Anakin Skywalker. The Jedi Path detailing many Force abilities, saber skills, and Jedi traditions. Seeing as Grandmaster Luke by 44 ABY was stated to possess a mastery of the Force, and again, given Luke's prodigious nature, instantly adapting to Vader's dueling techniques, or mastering the obscure Ang-Ti abilities in 2 days, it is entirely likely that he would easily come to master these Force powers. To summarize, Luke Skywalker possesses 5th dimensional attack potency, massively faster than light reaction speed, combat skills surpassing masters of the 7 lightsaber forms, as well as martial prowess greater than that of 21 fighting styles. With a nearly endless pool of Force-based knowledge to draw from, as well as an extensive arsenal of hacks and resistances, Luke Skywalker is a truly awe-inspiring combatant and would stand as the strongest unamped Jedi in all of galactic history, and would be the single Skywalker to come the closest to unlocking their latent potential, barring any outside factors. Thanks so much for watching, and feel free to share any constructive thoughts or suggestions towards future videos in the comments below. If you're a fan of content like this, you can support it through liking and subscribing. It helps out a lot. Or you could pledge to my Patreon, link in the description below. Which reminds me, I have to give a very special shout out to Daniel C. Richard, Brad Watkins, and Pro Crims for becoming patrons under my $5 a month tier. A huge shout out to Loopy Gaming for joining the $10 a month tier, and an astronomically large shout out to some guy subscribing to the $15 a month Patreon tier. Appreciate it, and I'll see you all next time.